Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Chacko, and I'm here with Serenity and Health. And as you know, I've been doing these pop-up conversations like a mini series. And believe it or not, this is number 10. And that's pretty special on number 10 that I have Lord LK, we're going to say LK Paden with me. Hi, LK. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Fine, fine. Uh,
Excellent.
for our listeners, if her name Paden sounds at all familiar, that's because her daughter was number 4 in this series. And if you had a chance to see it, she's been Jolie, LK's daughter, is very active in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and is the director in Southeast Asia now, director of operations. So anyway, my connection to LK is through her daughter Jolie. That's pretty special.
That's very cool.
Very special. So LK comes to us from North Carolina, and she's going to tell us a bit. She's very, very involved in the YMCA and has been for a past few years, executive director of 2 different centers. And want her to tell us about that, and then she's going to tell us her health story because, as you know, the guests that have been on this series all have some interest, some connection, personal and professional, with the whole deal of health of mind, body, spirit, the link of health to faith. So I'm excited for you all to hear LK's story. So anyway, welcome with all of that, LK. I'm really happy that you are with me today.
Right now, for the last few years, I've had the opportunity to work with the YMCA of Western North Carolina. I serve 2 centers right now in Henderson County, Hendersonville Family YMCA and the YMCA at Mission Party Health Campus. And my background is public parks and recreation, and I've always had a emphasis on the health and wellness because of my story. You'll see why. It's always been something that's I chose as part of my career to grow within.
Uh,
And in the beginning, not for the best reasons, but now I'm so thankful that God put me where I am today. So my background's public parks and recreation, where I ran wellness programs, large special events, facility rentals, community programming. And then when we moved to North Carolina, and it's almost been 5 years ago, I was just looking for some work and I popped into our Y and I'm like, ooh, I want to teach some classes there. So I got on their schedule. And then within a few months, I was one of their coordinators, and then they lost someone. So I was a manager, and then I was a director, and I just kept kind of growing through
yeah.
the process. But what I do love about the why and marrying it with my health and wellness background and my park and rec background is that our mission. So our mission is we're so much more than a swim or a gym. So that's what people around here, they think we're a pool and a gymnasium.
No, we talked about this before. I'm so glad you're bringing this up because the mission of the YMCA is way broader than I thought, and especially during the pandemic, you can just touch on that so everybody knows all the great stuff you do.
So during the pandemic, like every other gym in the country, we had to close our wellness centers and our gyms and all of that. And it was funny because last week someone said, "Okay, so what did you get to do during this shutdown? Did you have a nice relaxing time?" And my hair was not curly before the pandemic. I do not know how it turned gray and it got curly because all we did was, man, we hit the community. And there was never a better time when I didn't have to talk about the wellness center, but what we were doing for our communities. So the YMCA is about healthy living, social development, social responsibility, and youth development. Well, youth development, immediately we created these emergency childcare provision centers for all of our healthcare workers, whether they were working in hospitals, clinics, and then even it expanded to like assisted living people. I mean, people needed places for their kids, and they were either be minimal charge or no charge. We never turn anyone away for the inability to pay. So, we're like, okay, we're in the middle of our campaign season. It was really, how do you ask people for money? But
Right.
God really blessed us and people kept giving. But the part that's been really near and dear to my heart is that our YMCA has an amazing nutrition program, and we call it community health, and we distribute healthy food, not canned food, not mac and cheese, not junk, like like people will be like, hey, we want to donate some food. And if it's not within our healthy guidelines, we cannot take it.
Wow.
Just in the last 6 months, I have to tell you this. Through our Y, Western North Carolina, we gave away 211,519 pounds of food.
Wow. See, that's so impressive. I just want to get the word out. And by the way, for everybody listening, on the show notes, LK is going to give me the information if you wish to make a contribution, because the Y helps so many people. It's the largest nonprofit in the United States, and so it's good to know about. But we could probably talk about it all
I know,
the
we could
time,
talk forever.
but we won't.
You can email me or call me. I would love to tell them more about how we, served our older population, our youth, all of that. It's cool.
Daycare, after school programs, all of that. Yeah, it's wonderful. Um, the reason I'm talking to LK is that Jolie said I should. Jolie, her daughter, she said, you must talk to my mom. She has a great story. And I talked to her, and I did. And here we are. So I know you've always, well, tell us what happened, because I know you had a kind of a many years of being outwardly healthy, but you really weren't. And then big change in your life. And here we are. So
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we are so focused on outward health, and I think Coach Tate just on your last one was saying about like it's about the inside that matters first, and then the outside will come. And I always think about this analogy of like, what if you had a car, a beautiful red hot sports car with no engine?
yeah.
Not gonna go anywhere. And so like just like thinking of our bodies in that way. And I apologize because once I start talking, the Holy Spirit just takes over and I just go wherever it leads us. But so my story, I struggle with eating disorders. I would have to say for over half my life, and I wouldn't have said over half my life till we decided to sit down and talk. And you said, "Okay, what's your story?" So I kind of like just looking at timelines and stuff like that. And for 33 years, on and off, I struggled with um, just improper thinking about food, binging, uh, exercise addiction, trying every single diet, buying diet pills, fat burners, laxative, like you name it, like everything. And you stem back and you're like, why is that? And usually when we're looking into something like that, it's something that stems back from way back when. I will tell you, I grew up in such a loving, caring, kind home. My mom always built me up. She still does. She's my biggest fan. I grew up in a Jewish home, and not like strong practicing, where we went to temple every Sunday, but I knew that that was my heritage. But I do remember one thing. And if I remember this, I'm 53 now. I had to think. I'm 53 years old right now. But when I was 8, my grandmother was going to take me shopping for my birthday. And she said, I'm not buying you anything. You're too fat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I think about that, and I look at a picture when I was 8 and I was this tiny little rail thing.
Okay, before she said that, had you ever had thoughts about that you were chubby, or did you ever think about it, or was that what made you start thinking about it, you think?
I think that like that has, for me to remember that,
Yeah.
my grandmother telling me, you're too fat, I'm not going to buy you anything. Like I was like, wow. But I never really thought about it till, of recent, trying to dig back in. And it was weird, and I talked about it, and I know a lot of people can relate to this. And a friend of mine posted a meme the other day, and it said, I wish I was as fat as I thought I was in high school.
Yeah.
It was awesome, but it's true. We think, oh my gosh, and it's just how hard we are on ourselves, and what are we comparing ourselves to, and what are we measuring ourselves to? So fast forward several years, we moved my freshman year of high school into it was like, I was in the same town, but I had to go to a different high school. Well, the high school at the time was very wealthy, very snobby, very on the up and up. And, I lived in the rougher neighborhood. I was tough kid. By the way, I had no Jesus through all of this at all. So I did everything and anything I could do to fit in. I partied. party, party, party. I'd get into fights. And then I, continued this binging, purging, this type of just randomly because I thought, oh, if I look better, that people would like me. I didn't have God in my life. And then when I look at that right now, it's like I was trying to fill myself with other things. I was trying to be cool, so I would drink. I was trying to be cool, so I would, try not to be the chubby girl.
Right.
So that was kind of like where that kind of stemmed. So through high school, in and out, just trying to fit in. And then I started powerlifting, and I thought I was all bad. I wore a gym that said the gym powerlifting, and I'd be like, I'll kick your butt. But I probably didn't say it that nicely. But I was just like, I just thought I was all bad, and I thought I was such a big girl, and I was heavy. I mean, like for my size, I was never. And I didn't realize this just until the last, 7 or 8 years. I'd be like, oh, I was so heavy. I was so heavy. And I was just plump. I was just little fluffy, I didn't struggle with major obesity. But in my mind I was. So it's a disease. It's real,
Right.
So I struggled with that. So then so that was like in 1980, but in 1989, I was like, I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition. And I'm probably one of the most disciplined people you'll meet. Once I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it. So I did this bodybuilding competition. So I lost 52 pounds. I weighed 107 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Right now I weigh like 140. Okay.
But that seems strange because you're supposed to be building muscles. How can you do bodybuilding and lose so much weight? I was speaking to parents about this, but
I looked like ripped and, really strong, but I just like, I was so tiny, but like people were like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. And, I felt so good. It's probably the first time ever I walked out in a bathing suit and not felt uncomfortable. Right. But anyway, so then after that, like I met Jimmy P, my husband of 30 years. Like a week after that, I kept saying, oh, you didn't know what you were getting to. You thought you were marrying this hot bodybuilder girl. But so within that next year, I started to gain that weight back. And I had probably lost 50 pounds at least to get down to that 107, at least in 3 months. And I worked hard. Like I wasn't like binging and throwing up or anything. I just like was eating exactly what this trainer told me to. But then I gained all that weight back, and I just felt awful again. So you buy newer clothes, you feel good. People think tell you look good. And that's what I was basing on. In 1990 was the year I met Jimmy, the year after I did that first show. That's when I was blessed with inviting Jesus into my life. I was so, it was just like, I started going to church with Jimmy P, and I heard a message, and it was the one time he didn't go with me, and they did an altar call, and I went forward, and I'd never gone to church by myself in my entire life. So the Lord just wanted to have me on his own for that day. And so that's, yeah.
Did that surprise you that you answered the altar call?
Yeah. I have chills right now just from saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't something you planned. You hadn't been thinking about like, oh, maybe I need to turn over a new leaf. Well, you had been thinking a little bit about it, I guess, because you went to church. Well, okay. So you did the altar call.
We got married. We had kids. I would struggle once in a while. Like I still, struggled with like body image most of all the time.
Let me interrupt. During all this time, though, you were kind of working in the parks and health, and you were working in this field of related to health somewhat, right?
Well, I was working on my graduate degree.
Yeah.
So I was still in college working on my graduate degree. But yes, I got I was working with Campus Rec. That's when I started teaching group exercise and getting very interested in helping other people. And then, of course, they see, oh, you're so strong and you've lost all this weight. I want you to help me. So that's where I started helping people and really falling in love with that. And then I will tell you, it is a complete gift to the way that I can teach group exercise. Like God has just gifted me to, I think more people come from the entertainment more than the workout though, because we just have a good time.
If they come, that's what counts.
So graduated, got married, had kids, just did the ebb and flow. I didn't hardly exercise at all. I would teach a couple classes a week for work. So then I gained that weight back, and, I had kids. And then, in about, I would say about 19, when I moved back to the central Illinois, about 97, I started teaching again pretty regularly. And then I started teaching in the school gymnasium, and my classes started growing and growing. And I started helping people.
Let me ask you, do you think you would you say you still had an eating disorder at that time?
Yeah, yeah, because I would like occasionally do this binging and all that kind of stuff. The part when it really started to break my heart was like in uh so I did another bodybuilding competition in 2008. So I just started to feel like I needed to do something again. Like it was like I was one of those people like it had to be extreme or it wouldn't work. So like I struggled from like 95 to 2008 when my kids, I admire the moms right now that find time to exercise and move now, because when my kids were in grade school and stuff, I just said, I don't have time for that, you know? Um,
Well, I think
so
you do not have time.
no, but so I so admire that. But so then in 2008, I'm like, okay, I'm fast forwarding some just
Yeah, yeah.
ahead. I was like, I'm gonna do another bodybuilding competition. I think Jolie might have been in 8th grade, and then Justin was in 6th. He hated it. But so I did this bodybuilding competition, and again, like I lost probably over 30 pounds. I had much more muscle. Like it was a good experience, but like people thought I was had cancer. They'd ask, oh, what's wrong with her? Because I mean, I went from like, just nice. I always had like puffy cheeks to
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I did really well in the bodybuilding competition. Felt really good about myself because everyone was like, oh, okay, you're amazing. I prayed a lot through that. Like I couldn't have been that disciplined without the Lord's help and all that. So, but I didn't feel like that was like I feel like that was an LK choice to do that. Like it wasn't his way of helping me get healthy. So then after that show was when so in 2008 I started to gain the weight back, and so then I got back in a really bad vicious cycle. I went to go see a nutritionist. I literally tried every diet. Like I would try every gimmick out there. Like I'd see an infomercial and poor Jimmy P, he'd just be like, oh no, here we go. Because I just it was, I don't know why that was so important to me, because like my upbringing was never like you need to, and that's a lot of people's problems, their parents are too tough on them. Mine never were. uh but anyway, so I just started at that point in time. A doctor, I went to a nutritionist and a doctor, and basically I had crashed my metabolism. So like, your metabolic resting rate for someone in their 40s maybe like 12 to 1400. So that's how many calories you burn just to live, eat, sleep. Well, mine was under 700. So no matter what I did, I was like gaining weight. I would choose not to eat, my body would retain fat. So it was just a vicious cycle. That's where I got to the point where I started running, and I was still teaching all my classes. And this is where they started calling me double wrap, because I'd wear 2 pair of pants, a sweatshirt, and another shirt, because I didn't want people to see me, because I just felt fluffy.
Yeah.
Um, and I would start running, and I just remember in Illinois we don't have hills like we have here in North Carolina, but so over the overpasses. So every time I'd be running over an overpass, I would stop and I'd get on my knees and I'd say, God, take this stronghold for me. For 3 years I prayed for him to remove that stronghold from me, because I realized, because I listened to a Beth Moore something, and that's when I started praying for him to remove that stronghold from me in 2008 or 9.
Yeah. So this is leading up to when you had that experience.
Yeah, so Miss Bodybuilder, Miss Group Exercise, Miss Public Speaker, and they my church said, hey, LK, will you speak at our women's conference? I love speaking to groups. I want to fire up people's brains. I was like, I would love to. And they're like, it's on mind, body, and health. I'm like, okay. So no problem. I start doing research and, keeping in the back of my mind that, oh, LK, you're a hypocrite, like you make it seem easy. And it's not, because I was living that secret lie that, Jimmy and the kids would go to youth group and I would eat a whole box of cereal when they weren't home, that kind of baloney. But anyway, so I started with a new health coaching group. That was another thing. Jimmy P was probably like, oh no, here we go again. But I was really intrigued by the science behind it, which is a miracle in itself because LK and the word science don't go together. I just want you to tell me how it works and I'll do it. But I was really intrigued by how our coaching worked with understanding blood sugar levels and that kind of stuff. And I started reading Rick Warren's Daniel Plan.
Right.
Those two things were God's answer to changing my life almost. There's one more little thing I have to tell you that happened. But anyway, so I love the Daniel Plan. I love what it was about. I still pick it up.
By the way, to interrupt, Daniel Plan, for those of you that don't know, it's the name of a book, but Reverend Rick Warren has the big Saddlebrook book, Saddleback Church in California, and a number of years ago, he had the revelation that, oh my gosh, I am really fat, and a lot of my congregation is too, and he put himself on a diet, not just a diet, a health plan, and encouraged his congregation to do the same. And it was a remarkable thing with great success in terms of their health. But then he wrote it with a doctor's contributing from the medical side, and we'll put the information on the show notes. I think we talked about it last week a little bit with Coach Tate, because he also likes, it's a wonderful program. But anyway, so go ahead.
It's super cool because like we all know that, we think to be healthy, it's about food and fitness, which it is. But he has food, fitness, focus, faith, and friends. And I added fun because you got to have fun. But so what changed my life and my thinking, almost, there's a little thing that happened before that, was the whole faith and focus. Like, it's about the faith. We can't do it on our own. Like, you have to release this. Especially if you have an issue or an illness about it, it's just kind of like if you're, struggling with alcoholism or drugs, like, or if you're depressed, like I have some super sweet, dear friends of mine that are depressed, and you can't say, stop being depressed. Like it doesn't work that way. But anyway, so go back to this women's conference, over 200 people there. And I've been public speaking for many years, but I still write everything down. And I had like pages and pages of all this cool stuff that I was going to do. Well, I ran to the bathroom and I left my notes on a table, and this little kid knocked all my stuff on the floor. I'm like, no big deal. Pick it up, go to give my talk on healthy bodies. All my stuff was out of order. And I was like, that's okay. And I really got frazzled, and which isn't my style. So I just stopped and I paused and I prayed. And God said, okay, it's time to tell everyone who you really are. And in front of these 200 women, friends, recorded, I told them that I was a fake and that I really struggled. And God wanted me to reveal that. And I needed their friendship, because that was part of the Daniel Plan thing, to help me get through it, and that I would help them get through it. And I don't even remember what else we talked about. I would love to see the recording of it, but that changed my life. Since 2013, I feel like it was October, November, I've not had an issue with improper eating since then. Yeah. Not like it, God just removed it from me when I admitted my problem. And I will tell you, daily, it is, I have to make the choice to eat healthy, and I have to make the choice to move, and I have to make the choice to not talk negative about myself. But wow.
Wow, that's a fabulous story. LK, I'm curious, after you had your confession, your public confession, so to speak, have others with eating disorders, like in that group or elsewhere, reached out to you?
So people didn't not specifically saying like, I had eating disorders, but just really struggling with who they were, eating disorders, and that they overeat, they can't control it, because like indulging in gluttony is a problem, like, or like being addicted to sugar is a problem. Like, it's not just a let's go carb free, but yeah, so those types of conversations. And I will tell you that in December, and I kind of fought the Lord. He's like, you need to do a Bible study with this Daniel Plan. I'm like, it's December. No one's going to do it. I'm not a real big fan of women because they always, made me, I just really struggled with women in relationships. And I offered this
I'll
Bible.
I'll be your friend.
I'll be your friend. I've overcome that because I'm not worried about what people are thinking
There
anymore.
you go.
Most of the time, I mean, it's natural that we will, but I was like, sure, Lord, on December 3rd, I'll offer Daniel playing right before Christmas because no one will come. 18 people showed up. I was like, all right, here we go. And so then we worked through the holidays and we worked through, this plan all together. And that women's group met for over 8 years together.
Well, that's fabulous. So the Daniel Plan book comes with, for everyone, a workbook and
Video.
a video. They have a whole presence online where you can see all that's offered. It's certainly way more than just a book.
Oh, I love it. And the resources online are great. But I mean, just think about like even food, fitness, the friends part, like number one, confessing if you have an issue. And then if you ask someone to say, hey, can you keep me accountable? Don't get mad at them because like people get mad at me. Like if you'd say, Donna, okay, LK, I'm gonna, cut my bread. And then so I would be like, that's dumb. Let's not cut anything, but let's talk through it. But then if I hold you accountable, you can't get mad at me. People
Right. 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 Oh my goodness. Um, so could you feel the Holy Spirit or the intervention, or how did you know, how do you link your I'm going to call it a healing because it sounds like you definitely had a healing. How do you link it to your faith? How did you know?
So I was standing at the church at a podium speaking to these women, and like what I do so naturally like was taken away from me for a moment. And it could have been maybe like 2 seconds, but I just felt the Lord saying that I'm gonna take you through this.
Mhm.
And then yeah, like and then just like really
Yeah.
I can't even explain it because it was a miracle. And
Right.
like
Right.
I grew up in a Jewish house, and I remember my dad's like, "Why do you believe in this Jesus thing?" I'm like, "It's supernatural." Like that, and I wish I had more of those encounters.
Yeah.
And I've really been digging into scripture and praying more and trying to really, so I can experience and hear God more.
Right. Right. Well, I'm taking notice of the clock, and I want to allow time for you to offer some words of wisdom to those who are out there, of the many, many of us who at one time or another have dieted and starved and started over again, and weight issues and eating issues are huge. So what kinds of advice might you offer?
Okay, a couple things. So that Daniel Plan book is just even a good read. And then my advice would be to hook up with a friend or email me. I'd still love to just chat with people. Another great resource is Lisa Tykehurst, her
Mhm.
Made to Crave book. It's like, oh my goodness, she's writing my story. Like y'all will love it. It's a really easy read. And I've done a couple Bible studies with that. But the big thing is like deciding, like realizing that if you are if you're exercising a ton and trying to watch what you're eating because you care what you look like, you're not going to be as successful. So I would ask you to pray about it and ask why this is important to you and what are some goals that you can develop that don't revolve around what you look like. Because I'm telling you, if you rest well and you eat well and you move more, naturally your body is going to shape differently. So pray about it. Ask God to help you through that and to put people in your life to help you, because like it is truly something. Your body's a temple. It's like he wants you to take care of it. So like ask him, how help me. I'm struggling. Like confess that. The other thing is like say, okay, you're listening and you're fired up and you really want to make a change. Just pick one thing. Pick, I'm gonna pray about it, or pick, I'm going to change the way I eat, or I'm going to start moving. Like don't say, okay, I'm going to start cutting my calories and I'm going to start exercising every day. Like baby steps, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things, because if you just pick one small step in one small arena, it will impact the others anyway.
Right.
Prayer will help you have some clarity and peace, and then that may allow you to start walking, and that may make you feel better. So finally, you're going to eat better, or some other sequence. Yeah, absolutely.
And then
Very wise.
I've learned too, and like studies show that if you write down your goal, you're more likely to obtain it. If you write down your goal and tell somebody, then you're even going to obtain that potentially even quicker, or
Mhm.
actually get it done. The other thing too that I really want to share, and like it's during the pandemic, it's really helped me a ton. So like you don't need to exercise for 2 hours a day. Like 20 minutes, like 20 minutes of getting your body moving, walking, and uh, just being active is so important. That whole fallacy, like literally, I used to work out when I was in that really big pit. I was working out 7 to 15 hours a week, and I wasn't seeing any changes in my body. Now, like today, before I jumped on the call, I did a walk for 20 minutes, where before I would have had to run 6 miles to feel good. So, and I'm probably in the best shape I've been in many years, because I'm just pulling back and listening to my body. Donna, you did ask me about strength training. Strength
Oh,
training, so good for you, so important. Number one, we need, as we age, stronger bones, stronger muscles, and strength training does that. And the more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns. So, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I figured this out personally a few years ago. And the pandemic has been helpful for me in that I changed my exercise routine. And so I do less, more days, sometimes walking, sometimes with some weight resistance training at home. So, it's funny how that works out.
I do have something funny. So during the pandemic for the YMCA, we started doing all virtual classes. So I teach an early morning class. I'm like, we got to go virtual. In the first month or two were a joke, because everyone had their dogs jumping in, their cats, their kids, whatever. But so I'm a big coach. Like I like to encourage and drive people. So when you're in my class in life, I'm not doing the exercises. Well, the first 2 weeks of teaching virtual, I thought I was going to die. My husband's like, now you know what we've been.
Because you had to do it.
But if
That's,
anybody wants to, like,
yeah.
on my Facebook page, you can join. Like I teach every Wednesday morning at 5:45
Oh,
a.m. on,
put that on the show notes. So
yeah,
what time? 5:45
5:45 a.m. Eastern time.
time.
Uh,
Okay. So
It's
I,
entertaining.
I'll get that. We'll put that on there. So that's great. That's wonderful. Whoa, this is a lot of thinking and praying material for many of us, and we all will have to. Anybody who is watching this or reading it or whatever, be sure and share it with people in your life that you know are struggling, because there's a lot of us at one time or another who have struggled.
Mhm.
Um, if we have forgotten something important, we're going to figure it out afterwards and add it to the show notes so you can read it. Do you think we forgot anything we really wanted to say, LK?
I don't think so, but there is one quote that Rick Warren talked about in his book. There's two things that I want to leave people with. You become like the five people that you spend most of your time with. So if you're experiencing unhealthy habits, whatever it may be, like pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with, and find healthier minded people to surround yourself with. Think about five people. That's you're gonna be like. The other thing, I love this. He said about your body, God created it, Jesus died for it, the spirit lives in it. So we need to take care of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, this
Yeah.
has been really marvelous. I feel really excited now. I know Jolie and her mama. That's a wonderful family connection. That's just great. Um, well, all right, everyone. Thank you. And who knows? Maybe we'll do a part two sometime in the way future. I don't know, but I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you, LK, so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye bye.